Aristotle believed that every human being is capable of greatness. Not greatness in a mythical sense, but in the practical, daily way we think, choose, act, lead, and build our lives. And at the center of his philosophy lies one idea, one principle, that he saw as the foundation of all virtue, all wisdom, and all success, the golden mean. To Aristotle, the golden mean wasn't abstract theory. It was a strategy for living, a method for making decisions, a mindset for staying balanced, and a path to excellence that could be applied in every area of life, from leadership to discipline, from habits to productivity, from personal growth to the pursuit of success. Let's start with the core of it. Aristotle believed that every virtue, courage, discipline, generosity, ambition, patience, honesty, lives between two extremes. On one side, there's excess. On the other, deficiency. And in the middle, there is the point of balanced power, the golden mean, where you're not too much and not too little, where you show strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance, ambition without chaos, discipline without rigidity, compassion without weakness. Aristotle wasn't saying we should be average. He wasn't telling people to be moderate in a boring, neutral way. What he meant was far more profound. He believed that excellence itself emerges when you find the right measure, the right proportion of a quality, tuned to the moment, tuned to reality, tuned to who you want to become. Think of courage. Too little courage becomes fear, avoidance, hesitation. Too much courage becomes recklessness, impulsiveness, the kind of boldness that destroys more than it builds. But the golden mean, the proper courage, is the balanced strength that lets you step into challenge with clarity and confidence. Or think of ambition. Too little and life becomes stagnant. You lose opportunity. You miss growth. You fall asleep at the wheel of your own potential. But too much ambition becomes obsession, burnout, self-sacrifice, the loss of your center. The golden mean turns ambition into purpose-driven momentum, the kind that builds success without destroying your well-being. Aristotle believed this structure applies everywhere. In leadership, in strategy, in personal discipline, in relationships, in decision-making, in every area where humans can grow or collapse. Let's bring this into the modern world. Today we live in a time of extremes. We binge on productivity one week and then crash into exhaustion the next. We chase success with intensity and then feel lost because we forgot why we were even running. We want bold decisions but get paralyzed by indecision. We want balance but live in chaos. Our world pushes us to the edges. Too much stimulation, too much comparison, too much pressure, too much overthinking. Aristotle predicted this pattern long before technology. Deadlines or digital overwhelm existed. He understood that the human mind drifts naturally toward extremes unless guided by wisdom, discipline, and self-observation. That's why the golden mean is not passive. It's not automatic. It requires deliberate action, a conscious choice to step back from extremes and step into a space where clarity can emerge. Let's ground this in a real modern example. Imagine a leader in a high-pressure business environment, maybe a CEO, a manager, or simply someone responsible for guiding a team. If they lack confidence, they hesitate, overthink, and lose authority. But if they push confidence too far, it becomes dominance, ego, and bad decision-making. The golden mean calls for balanced leadership, confident enough to take action, grounded enough to listen, strong enough to set direction, humble enough to learn, or consider productivity. People today swing between two extremes: hyperproductivity, grinding non-stop, multitasking, burning out, and underproductivity, procrastinating, feeling overwhelmed, avoiding responsibility. Aristotle would say both extremes are symptoms of imbalance. The golden mean is disciplined productivity, focused work executed with strategy, rhythm, and stability. This balanced approach doesn't just feel better, it performs better. Aristotle believed that we become virtuous and therefore successful, not by choosing balance once, but by training ourselves to consistently find this middle point. He said that excellence is not an act but a habit, meaning You don't occasionally choose the golden mean. You develop it as a skill. And this is where Aristotle becomes incredibly relevant to modern life, because we don't just need inspiration. We need systems. We need repeatable processes for decision-making and self-mastery. We need ways to keep ourselves from veering off course. We need a framework to help us stay centered amid complexity. The golden mean is exactly that framework. It helps you recognize the exact moment when discipline becomes rigidity, when ambition becomes self-destruction, when rest becomes avoidance, when confidence becomes ego, when caution becomes fear. Once you have the awareness to see those shifts, you gain something most people never achieve: strategic balance, the kind that leads to long-term success. Aristotle believed that the right action, in the right moment, for the right reason, is the highest expression of wisdom. That's the essence of the golden mean. It's not just about doing something moderately. It's about doing the appropriate thing. The thing that aligns with your goals, your values, and your vision. Let's go deeper with another example. Picture someone trying to build a new habit, maybe exercising, reading, learning a skill, saving money. If they push too lightly, nothing changes. If they push too hard, they burn out. But if they apply the golden mean, they start with a balanced level of discipline, strong enough to create momentum, gentle enough to maintain consistency. This is how habits grow. This is how transformation happens. Aristotle's insight was simple but revolutionary. Success isn't about extremes. Success is about balance in motion. And yet, here is the part most people miss. Balance is not static. It doesn't mean standing still. The golden mean is not a quiet middle point. It is a dynamic equilibrium, constantly adjusting, responding, evolving. Just like a skilled leader adjusts their strategy. Just like a disciplined person adjusts their habits. Just like a wise decision maker adjusts their course based on clarity and context. Aristotle saw life as a moving target. And the golden mean is how you track the target without losing your center. As we go through this video, you'll see how this principle becomes a powerful tool for navigating modern challenges. From decision-making to leadership, from mindset to productivity, from opportunity to long-term success. But before we explore those deeper layers, there is one more piece we need to understand, something that unlocks the true power of the golden mean and shows why it's not just an idea, it's a practical formula. Aristotle believed the golden mean creates virtue, and virtue creates excellence. In his words, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. That means the golden mean is the foundation of who you become. It shapes your character, your decisions, your direction, and ultimately your destiny. And if you understand this, you can begin to re-engineer your life at its core. Aristotle warned that human beings naturally drift toward extremes, but he could never have imagined a world like ours, a world where the extremes chase us, where pressure, speed, comparison, overstimulation, distraction, and noise surround us from the moment we wake up to the moment we try to sleep. Today, we're not simply choosing how to live, we're fighting for control of our attention, our clarity, and our identity. And this is exactly why the golden mean becomes essential. Most people wake up already overwhelmed. Notifications, messages, deadlines, financial pressure, social expectations, news alerts, a constant stream of inputs that push us into urgency mode before we've even taken a breath. Aristotle believed that imbalance happens when humans act without reflection, when they get carried away by impulses, emotions, and environment. And modern life is a machine built to trigger those impulses non-stop. Think of how easily we fall into extremes. When we feel stressed, we lean into excess. More work, more speed, more pressure, more commitments. When we feel overwhelmed, we fall into deficiency, avoidance, procrastination, distraction, the temporary comfort of escape. We bounce between these two poles like a pendulum. Too much. Too little. Overdrive, shutdown. And the golden mean, the space of clarity and stability, becomes almost invisible. This is why so many capable adults feel stuck, not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've lost balance. They're living in a world that rewards extremes and punishes them at the same time. Take productivity, for example. Modern culture glorifies the grind. It celebrates anyone willing to sacrifice sleep, health, and peace just to get ahead. But Aristotle would look at that and say, that's not excellence, that's imbalance. Ambition without measure becomes self-destruction. It leads to burnout, poor judgment, and emotional collapse. Real productivity requires rhythm, not frenzy. Structure, not chaos. Intention, not compulsive effort. But modern life doesn't reward rhythm. It rewards noise. It rewards looking busy, not being effective. So people push harder and harder, chasing a finish line that never arrives. They live in a constant state of excess. On the other side, the world also encourages deficiency, avoidance, distraction, escape. Entertainment, social media, and endless content are designed to pull attention away from anything uncomfortable. Aristotle would call this the deficiency of discipline, the absence of engagement with purpose. Today, avoidance spreads faster than ever because modern platforms are engineered to keep people passive. It's easy to scroll, easy to escape, easy to hide from responsibilities. Both extremes, overworking and avoidance, create suffering. They lead to guilt, anxiety, frustration, and the feeling of living life off track. They pull people away from clarity, away from wisdom, away from themselves. What makes modern life even harder is that we've normalized imbalance. We treat burnout as normal. We treat being overwhelmed as normal. We treat constant distraction as normal. We treat decision fatigue as normal. But Aristotle would say none of this is normal. He would say it's a crisis of virtue. Not moral virtue, but practical virtue. The ability to live in alignment with excellence. And he would be right. Modern life fragments attention. It fractures identity. It overloads the mind with choices and comparisons. Humans were not designed to process endless streams of information, expectations, and pressure. So people fall into predictable patterns, working too hard and then collapsing, starting new habits and abandoning them instantly, chasing goals without direction, confusing movement with progress, mistaking stimulation for meaning. Aristotle understood this pattern long before screens existed. He believed humans cannot thrive without balance. That imbalance distorts perception. It fuels anxiety. It weakens character. It makes decisions unstable. And it creates the feeling of being lost even when life looks full. You can see this emotional instability everywhere. People feel guilty for resting, ashamed for slowing down, anxious for not achieving fast enough, overwhelmed by small decisions, exhausted by constant mental noise. They feel behind even when they're ahead. They feel pressure even when they're safe. They feel insecure even when they're capable. These emotional extremes make people chase extremes in behavior. More, or nothing, nothing. Aristotle's solution was simple: clarity through balance. He believed that the golden mean brings the mind back to center, back to reason, back to intentional action. It doesn't eliminate the chaos of life, but it protects you from being controlled by it. Consider how modern decisions work. People say yes too quickly because they fear missing opportunities. Then they regret it, or they say no out of fear and miss something meaningful. People take big risks impulsively or avoid necessary risks entirely. People get overwhelmed by choices because they don't have a stable internal compass. Aristotle would say the golden mean is that compass, the principle that helps you choose the right amount of action, the right level of intensity, the right direction. Here's the truth. Modern life punishes both extremes. If you work too hard, you burn out. If you rest too much, you fall behind. If you speak too boldly, you get criticized. If you stay quiet, you get overlooked. If you take risks, you fail. If you avoid risks, you stagnate. The world has become a maze of contradictions. And yet, the people who thrive are the ones who learn to stay centered while the world swings around them. The ones who build inner stability in the middle of outer chaos. The ones who don't get pulled into excess or deficiency, but navigate the middle path with clarity and intention. Aristotle's golden mean doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. It gives you the ability to see extremes before they consume you. It gives you the power to pause when others panic. It gives you the clarity to act strategically instead of emotionally. It gives you a foundation to build habits, identity, and long-term success without destroying your health or peace. This is why Aristotle's method is more relevant now than at any point in history. Because our biggest enemy isn't lack of opportunity, it's lack of balance. People have access to more tools, more information, more resources, more possibilities than ever before, and yet they feel more lost, more scattered, more overwhelmed. Aristotle already solved this problem thousands of years ago. His answer wasn't complexity. It was simplicity, balance, clarity, moderation, intentionality. The golden mean is not about doing less. It's about doing the right amount. Not about being passive, about being measured. Not about avoiding ambition, about guiding ambition with wisdom. And when you understand this, the entire landscape of modern life begins to shift. Choices become clearer, emotions become calmer, productivity becomes steady, identity becomes stronger, leadership becomes more effective. Because when the world pulls everyone toward extremes, the person who can stay balanced becomes powerful. Aristotle never intended philosophy to stay in the abstract. His ideas were designed for real life, for the mornings when your mind feels heavy, for the stressful moments when decisions feel blurry, for the days when ambition pushes too hard or discipline disappears. In this chapter, we take the golden mean out of theory and place it into your daily reality. Practical, clear, actionable steps you can use immediately. Let's start with the first and most important action, identifying your extremes. You cannot find balance if you don't know where you're drifting. This is the foundation of Aristotle's method. Pick one area of your life: work, habits, health, productivity, relationships, finances. Just one. Then ask yourself two simple questions. What does excess look like for me here? And what does deficiency look like? These two questions expose the patterns that keep you stuck. For example, in productivity, excess might look like working late every night, skipping meals, losing sleep, and feeling guilty for resting. Deficiency might look like procrastinating, delaying tasks, abandoning projects halfway, or constantly switching goals. Your golden mean lives somewhere between these two, a place where you're productive but not overwhelmed, consistent but not rigid, disciplined but not exhausted. Once you recognize your extremes, the second action becomes clear. Start with small corrections. Aristotle believed that excellence is built through repetition, not intensity. Most people fail because they try to fix everything at once. They push too hard, too fast, and the system collapses. The golden mean invites a different strategy. Don't try to jump to perfect balance. Simply move closer to it. If you're burning out, the correction might be setting one boundary today, not 5. If you're avoiding responsibilities, the correction might be doing 5 minutes of focused work before checking your phone, not an entire hour of deep work. Aristotle understood human nature. He knew that sustainable change requires consistency, not extremes. Slightly less excess, slightly less deficiency. Small adjustments that can be repeated every day. The third action is deliberate self-observation. This is where Aristotle feels surprisingly modern. He believed that awareness is the root of wisdom, that you must observe your impulses, your thoughts, your reactions, without judgment. Notice when ambition becomes chaos. Notice when discipline becomes rigidity. Notice when emotions take over. This awareness creates a crucial pause, and in that pause lives your power to choose. Without this, you live on autopilot. You repeat old patterns. You overcommit, then collapse. You avoid tasks, then feel guilty. You lose balance without even realizing it. Self-observation breaks the cycle. It gives you visibility into your inner world. And once you can see your impulses clearly, you're no longer controlled by them. The fourth action is intentional decision-making. Aristotle believed that a good decision is one that aligns with virtue, meaning it aligns with your values, your goals, and your highest potential. So here's a simple, powerful question to ask before you act. Is this choice aligned with the person I want to become? This question transforms your behavior instantly. It filters out impulsive decisions, emotional reactions, and short-term temptations. When you consider a new project, Ask yourself, is this aligned with my long-term strategy, or is it just my ambition running wild? When you think about skipping a task, ask, is this aligned with my standard of excellence, or is fear pulling me into deficiency? This kind of intentionality brings clarity into the moments that matter most. The fifth action is creating rhythm. Aristotle understood that the human mind thrives on structure. Not rigidity, structure. Rhythm protects you from extremes by replacing chaos with predictability. You can apply this rhythm to your mornings, your work sessions, your exercise, your planning, your rest. Maybe it means blocking time for deep work. Maybe it means creating a nighttime ritual that stabilizes your mind. Maybe it means setting weekly checkpoints to realign your habits. Modern life is filled with constant variability, new inputs, new expectations, new distractions every hour. Rhythm is your anchor. It keeps you grounded so your focus doesn't scatter and your emotions don't take over. Rhythm stabilizes your internal world, even when your external world is unpredictable. The sixth action is controlled ambition. Aristotle believed ambition was good, necessary even, but only when guided by virtue. When ambition goes unchecked, it turns into obsession, burnout, ego-driven decisions, and self-destruction. But controlled ambition, ambition grounded in clarity, wisdom, and discipline, becomes a force for growth. Controlled ambition means working with intensity but not urgency. It means pursuing excellence without sacrificing your health or relationships. It means wanting more but not at the cost of your center. It's not the loud, aggressive ambition the world celebrates. It's quiet, focused, sustainable, the kind that wins over time. The seventh action is emotional regulation. Aristotle knew that emotions influence behavior and distort decisions. He believed the golden mean protects you from emotional extremes. When fear rises, it helps you avoid paralysis. When excitement spikes, it prevents recklessness. When anger appears, it keeps you grounded. A simple technique you can apply immediately is this: pause before reacting. Even 3 seconds can shift your state. Another technique is asking yourself, what is the golden mean here? Am I reacting too strongly or not strongly enough? These questions help you return to center. They help you anchor your decisions in clarity instead of emotional noise. The eighth and final action is alignment, aligning your behavior with your identity. Aristotle believed that we become what we repeatedly do, not what we dream about, not what we talk about, what we do. When your actions align with your values, your purpose, and your vision for excellence, something powerful happens. You begin to transform from the inside out. Alignment means your habits support your goals. Your decisions reflect your values. Your discipline builds your identity instead of fighting it. Alignment creates a stable sense of self, a center that doesn't crumble under pressure. This is where Aristotle's philosophy becomes more than strategy. It becomes transformation. These actions aren't complicated. They're simple, practical, human. They work because they fit the way the mind naturally functions. They respect your limits while expanding your potential. They help you find balance in a world that constantly pushes you to extremes. And when practiced consistently, they create visible, measurable change, more clarity, better decisions, stronger discipline, calmer emotions, higher productivity, deeper confidence. Aristotle knew that anyone can step into excellence, not by chasing perfection, but by practicing balance, by applying the golden mean in moments small and large, by choosing the right amount of effort, the right amount of ambition, the right amount of rest, the right amount of discipline. This is how transformation begins. And now that you've learned how to put Aristotle's wisdom into practice through daily habits and practical actions, it's time to elevate everything you've learned to a higher level. The world of leadership, influence, and high-stakes decision-making. Leadership in the modern world is heavier than ever. The pressure is constant. The expectations are high. The pace is unforgiving. And every decision feels like it carries weight. Weight on your career, your team, your reputation, your future. Aristotle understood leadership long before corporations, CEOs, politics, or global markets existed. Yet his insights fit today's world with surprising precision. For Aristotle, leadership wasn't about power. It wasn't about authority. It wasn't about being the loudest voice in the room. Leadership was the art of guiding human behavior with clarity, balance, and virtue. And the golden mean stood at the center of it all. Let's begin with one of the most important qualities a leader can have: confidence. Aristotle believed confidence must be balanced. Too little confidence becomes hesitation, self-doubt, and confusion. Too much confidence turns into arrogance, impulsiveness, and reckless decisions. But the golden mean creates a different form of confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that leads with clarity, not ego. Think about leaders you've worked with. Some avoid making decisions because they fear being wrong. Others make decisions too quickly, without listening, without considering consequences. Both extremes create instability. But a leader who finds the center, the right amount of boldness, the right amount of caution, becomes someone people trust, someone people follow. Now let's move to discipline. Leadership without discipline collapses. But discipline taken too far becomes rigidity, micromanagement, control. And a rigid leader suffocates creativity, kills innovation, and destroys morale. The golden mean brings discipline into harmony, structured yet flexible, consistent yet adaptable. This is the type of discipline that fosters productivity without killing initiative. Aristotle would say leadership requires virtue in action, meaning the leader must display the right amount of strength for the moment. Not too hard, not too soft, not too fast, not too slow. Leadership is situational, and the golden mean gives leaders the ability to adapt without losing themselves. Let's bring this into modern leadership challenges. One of the hardest tasks leaders face today is decision-making under uncertainty. The world moves fast. Markets shift overnight. Teams change. Industries evolve. Leaders must make decisions before they feel ready, and without all the information they want. Some leaders freeze in these moments. Others push too aggressively. The golden mean teaches a balanced approach. Gather enough information to make a thoughtful decision, but don't chase endless certainty. Certainty is an illusion. Clarity is what matters. A leader operating from the golden mean knows how to slow down when emotions rise. They know how to speed up when urgency matters. They know when to step back, when to delegate, when to hold the line, and when to pivot. They make decisions with the right amount of intensity. Not from panic, not from hesitation, but from awareness. Another leadership challenge is managing ambition. Ambition drives progress. It fuels innovation. But uncontrolled ambition destroys teams and careers. It pushes leaders to take on too much, chase too many goals, or ignore the well-being of the people they lead. Aristotle believed ambition must be guided by wisdom, the ability to see long-term consequences, not just immediate rewards. Controlled ambition creates strategic leadership. It allows leaders to prioritize the right opportunities. It helps them say yes when the moment is right, and no when the price is too high. It keeps teams focused. It prevents burnout, and it builds stability. Now consider communication. Aristotle saw communication as a virtue too, the balance between speaking too much and too little. Leaders who dominate conversations create fear and silence. Leaders who barely speak create confusion and weakness. But leaders who communicate with balance, clearly, calmly, and purposefully, create alignment. They create trust. They build teams that move in the same direction. In modern business, communication determines culture. One extreme creates a dictator, the other creates a ghost. But the leader who finds the golden mean becomes a guide, someone who inspires without overwhelming, who directs without controlling, who listens without disappearing. Aristotle also understood the emotional side of leadership. A leader's emotional state influences every decision, every interaction, every strategic move. Too much emotion creates chaos. Too little creates coldness. But emotional balance, the golden mean, creates presence. The ability to stay centered when the team is stressed. The ability to anchor others when things get turbulent. The ability to regulate yourself so you can lead others. Modern teams look to leaders for stability, When a leader is grounded, the team feels grounded. When a leader loses balance, everyone feels it. This is why emotional regulation is not just personal development, it's leadership development. Let's talk about strategy. Strategy is another area where extremes can destroy progress. Some leaders plan endlessly without acting. Others act without planning. The golden mean teaches a balanced rhythm. Think deeply, then move decisively. Strategy demands reflection, but it also demands momentum. Too much reflection leads to stagnation. Too much action leads to chaos. The right amount, the golden mean, creates progress. Aristotle's wisdom even applies to innovation. Too much innovation becomes instability. Constant changes, constant new ideas, constant redirection. Too little innovation becomes stagnation. Falling behind, becoming irrelevant, losing competitive edge. But innovation balanced with strategy creates healthy evolution. The team grows without losing its foundation. Another crucial leadership skill Aristotle predicted is the ability to manage energy, both your own and your team's. Leaders who push too hard drain everyone. Leaders who don't push enough create complacency. But leaders who understand the golden mean know how to pace their team. They know when to push, when to pause, when to recover, and when to accelerate. This pacing is what keeps teams resilient. Aristotle would say that leadership is the practice of shaping human potential, and the golden mean gives leaders the clarity to shape that potential wisely. It acts like a compass, guiding decisions, stabilizing emotions, sharpening judgment, and strengthening relationships. When leaders operate from the golden mean, something powerful happens. Teams feel safer. People think more clearly. Communication improves. Productivity becomes more steady. Innovation becomes more intentional. And the leader themselves grows, not from burnout or chaos, but from clarity and stability. This is leadership excellence, not the loud, dramatic version the world often celebrates, but the balanced, wise, strategic version that lasts, the kind of leadership that influences not just results but people, the kind that builds trust, not fear, the kind that creates success that compounds over time. And now that we've explored how Aristotle's golden mean elevates leadership and strategic decision-making, it's time to go even deeper into the final stage of this journey, the stage where balance becomes mastery, where habits become identity, and where philosophy becomes transformation. Mastery is not a moment. It's not a breakthrough. It's not a single achievement, a single opportunity, or a single decision that suddenly changes everything. Mastery, for Aristotle, was the result of alignment. The alignment between who you are, what you repeatedly do, and the direction you choose to move your life toward. In this final chapter, we step into what the golden mean makes possible when it becomes part of your identity, not just your habits. Aristotle believed that every human being holds the potential for greatness. Not greatness in a competitive way, not greatness measured by wealth or fame, but greatness measured by clarity, virtue, wisdom, and purpose. He called this state Eudaimonia, the highest form of flourishing. A life where your mind, your actions, your discipline, your decisions, and your character work together, not against each other. And the golden mean is the path to that state. At first, the golden mean feels like a tool, a way to make better decisions, improve productivity, avoid burnout, regulate emotions. But when practiced over time, it becomes something far more powerful, a way of being, a structure for how you think, how you act, how you lead, how you respond, how you move through the world. This is where transformation begins. Let's start with discipline. Most people think discipline is about force, about pushing harder, about grinding. But Aristotle believed true discipline is elegant. It's quiet. It's the ability to choose the right amount of effort, not too much, not too little, in a consistent rhythm that builds strength automatically. When discipline becomes balanced, it becomes self-sustaining. It stops being something you fight with and becomes something that supports you. Imagine waking up with a mind that isn't battling extremes, a mind that isn't panicking about doing too much or too little. A mind that moves through the day with clarity, knowing exactly when to work, when to pause, when to push, when to step back. This clarity is one of the most powerful forms of freedom, and it is the direct result of practicing the golden mean until it becomes your natural state. Now think about ambition. Most people swing between overreaching and underperforming. They push too hard, then lose motivation. They set huge goals, then abandon them. They get excited, then get overwhelmed. But when ambition becomes balanced, when it becomes controlled, strategic, aligned, you move with direction. You chase goals that matter. You follow momentum that lasts. You choose opportunity not from desperation, but from clarity. Balanced ambition creates stable growth, the kind of growth that compounds over time, the kind of growth that builds real success. Let's move to identity. Aristotle believed identity is not fixed. It's shaped. It's formed through repeated action, through habits, through choices, through the decisions you make every day, especially the small ones. If you practice the golden mean daily, your identity slowly shifts. You become someone who thinks clearly, someone who acts intentionally, someone who pursues excellence without losing balance, someone who remains calm in situations that used to trigger anxiety or doubt. The golden mean transforms you by training your mind. It teaches you how to override emotional extremes, how to stop impulsive reactions, how to avoid self-sabotage, how to stand in clarity instead of chaos. It gives you a center, a place inside yourself that doesn't break under pressure. And when you have that center, everything in life changes. Your relationships improve because you communicate with balance. You don't overreact. You don't shut down. You speak clearly, listen fully, and respond intentionally. You bring stability instead of volatility, confidence instead of insecurity. Your career improves because you move with strategy. You don't chase every opportunity blindly. You don't waste energy on extremes. You act with precision. The right amount of effort, the right amount of risk, the right amount of patience. You become the person who consistently performs, consistently grows, consistently leads. Your habits improve because you stop trying to fix your life in one giant burst. You shift into sustainable action, the kind you can repeat every day. Small corrections, small victories, small progress that compounds over time into transformation. Your emotional world improves because you learn to regulate yourself. You recognize anxiety before it takes over. You recognize frustration before it explodes. You recognize fear before it pushes you into avoidance. You recognize excitement before it turns into recklessness. Emotion becomes information, not a weapon against yourself. Aristotle believed that a person who lives according to the golden mean becomes strong, not in a loud, aggressive way, but in a grounded, unshakable way. They develop what he called practical wisdom, the ability to choose the right action in the right moment. This is the highest form of intelligence, not academic intelligence, life intelligence. And this intelligence is what leads to mastery. Mastery of your time, mastery of your habits, mastery of your emotions, mastery of your discipline, mastery of your ambitions, mastery of your decisions, and ultimately mastery of yourself. But here's the deeper truth Aristotle understood. Mastery is not perfection. It's not flawless execution. It's not a life without mistakes. Mastery is the ability to return to center quickly, to correct your course without self-destruction, to adjust, refine, recalibrate. Perfection is rigid. Mastery is adaptable. A master is not someone who never drifts. A master is someone who notices the drift instantly and returns to balance with ease. That is the golden mean in its highest form. Let's bring this into the real world. Imagine a leader who no longer swings between burnout and avoidance. A leader who makes decisions with clarity instead of pressure. A leader who inspires trust because they remain centered even when things go wrong. Imagine a parent who no longer reacts out of frustration. A partner who communicates without extremes. A professional who performs at a high level without collapsing internally. A person who lives with calm strength, who moves through life with purpose, not panic. This is what Aristotle believed was possible when you align your behavior with virtue, when your discipline has balance, When your ambition has clarity, when your decisions have intention, when your identity aligns with your actions, transformation doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens when balance becomes your instinct, when the golden mean becomes the foundation of how you think, choose, lead, and live. When you no longer need to fight your own extremes because you've trained yourself to see them before they take over. At this stage, the golden mean becomes more than a principle. It becomes a way of experiencing life. You become someone who can handle complexity without collapsing. Someone who can navigate opportunities without chasing noise. Someone who can adapt to uncertainty without losing direction. Someone who can rise without falling apart. This is the transformation Aristotle envisioned, a transformation built through clarity, through balance, through intentional action, through the steady practice of virtue, through the ongoing commitment to choosing the right amount in every situation. And when you reach this point, something extraordinary happens. You begin to trust yourself. Not blindly, not arrogantly, but with deep grounded confidence. Confidence built on discipline, awareness, and wisdom. Confidence that doesn't need validation. Confidence that doesn't crumble when challenged. This is the life Aristotle believed you were capable of living. A life of excellence, strength, purpose, and balance. And now that you understand the full power of the golden mean, the final step is to bring everything together. To connect the insights, the actions, the leadership principles, and the transformation into a single, clear, inspiring message you can carry forward. As we close this journey, remember this. Aristotle didn't just leave us ideas, and he left us a method, a way of thinking, a way of choosing, a way of living with balance, clarity, discipline, and purpose. And the golden mean is your blueprint for navigating a world that constantly pulls you toward extremes. If there is one message to take with you, it's this. Success isn't built in chaos. It's built in alignment, in the right amount of effort, the right amount of ambition, the right amount of rest, the right amount of discipline. When you live from that center, you don't just improve your habits, you transform your identity. You become someone who leads with clarity, makes decisions with wisdom, and moves through life with grounded confidence. If this video spoke to you, if it helped you reflect, slow down, or think differently, let me know in the comments. Tell me which part of Aristotle's wisdom hit you the hardest. I read every comment, and I always want to know what resonates with you. And if you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay connected. We're building a community of people who want to think deeper, grow stronger, and live with excellence. If you want to continue your journey with Aristotle right now, you can choose your next step. On the right side of your screen, you'll find Aristotle's 3 secrets to achieve success and master your life, a deeper dive into the mindset behind long-term achievement. And on the left, you'll see Aristotle on happiness, timeless lessons to level up today, a powerful guide to building a fulfilling, meaningful life in a world full of pressure and distraction. Pick the one that calls to you, and I'll see you there.